statistics. Also, we would like also to contrast also with the objectives with the public sector accounting. We have to discuss also with what happened with the concept with the entity concept in the government finance statistic and the public sector accounting also, because government finance statistic is very focuses in general government sector. We have to speak about in detail what is considered general government sector, and also we would like also to speak about the consolidation process in accountings, and but the compiling statistic also, what is the integrating process between public sector accounting and the government finance statistics. And in the end, we will speak a little bit about the main challenges in this integration process between public sector accounting and government finance statistics. So, in the context, to start, I would like to say, all of you, there are many reference frameworks talking about those topics. So, but all these frameworks always are aimed towards increasing the transparency and the usefulness of the public sector information around the world. So the idea is to have a very harmonized framework to prepare also this financial information. It could be with these frameworks, the countries could do comparison between each other, and also maybe inside also to policy makers to have some decisions. So for the reason is the idea to have these reference frameworks, to have this the standard very clear. So, and in the government finance statistics, also we have to speak about also the national accounts. The national accounts is a system which is presented all the accounts of the countries in an economy, in the macroeconomic perspective, like a statistic perspective. And the national accounts is regulated in this moment. There is a framework regulating these national accounts. Is the system of national accounts. It was released in 2008, and it was released by the United Nations in collaboration with the European Commission and the Organization for the Economic Cooperation and Development, the OECD, and World Bank Group. So this system of national accounts is providing concepts, classifications, and also some accounting rules to account different economic facts, and also to prepare like indicators like GDP, like the gross domestic product, like in Spanish, PIB, Producto Interno Bruto. So this is the idea is to have this system, this framework to prepare these indicators. So in this system of national accounts, there is a chapter speaking about government finance statistics, because of course, when we see the GDP, we will see all the sectors involved in the economy of a country, like enterprises, private enterprises, the households, or also the non-profit organizations. So the national accounts also has this chapter talking about this government finance statistics, to, of course, to lead a little bit the process how government should prepare its statistics, their statistics. So also in the national accounts, there are here in Europe, there is the European System of Accounts. Is the ESA 2010, and it was developed by the Statistical Office of the European Communities, Eurostat, and also it is harmonized also with the national accounts, with the system of national accounts, the SNEA. So of course, the ISA also has many chapters also talking about the all sectors in the economy, but also the government finance statistics. So this is like the general framework for all the economy, macroeconomic statistics, but we have also a very specific framework talking about government finance statistics, and it is the government financial statistics framework of 2014 and the Manual of Government Deficit and Debt. It was released by the International Monetary Fund. So the idea with this framework is to follow how is the fiscal behavior of the governments, and also what is the performance, and also how to prepare the financial government financial statistic, also to be also the old indicator I mentioned before, like in the national account. So these three frameworks of the system of national accounts, European system of accounts, and the government financial statistics framework are harmonized. So in this moment, right now, the three frameworks are harmonized because of course, they are participating in different committees to prepare and release this kind of frameworks. So just to mention, for instance, the European system of accounts is binding. It means it's mandatory for the countries here, the members of the European Union. So, and also, for instance, there are some countries if they want to be part of the European Union, they need to apply, yes, this framework, this European system of accounts, because this European system of accounts gives some tools to follow, to monitoring the main indicators, and also to how is the behavior of the fiscal performance also of the government. So this is the idea. For this reason, this guide I mentioned before, is focused in also in this European system of accounts, because the guide was prepared for this Pulsar program, and the beneficiaries of this program, are the Eastern Europe, Eastern countries of Europe. So this is a main thing we have to check. But of course, for instance, right now in Colombia, el DANE. So DANE is using the system national accounts to produce the indicator like the GDP. So and also is harmonized, harmonized with the government financial statistics framework in the chapter about the government financial statistics. So, but in the public accounting, we have to talk about International Public Sector Accounting Standard, the IPSAS. I'm not sure if you have heard about these standards. There is like IFRS in the private sector. In the public sector, we have the IPSAS. So the IPSAS are released by the International Public Sector Accounting Standard Board. So this is the so in this moment there are 44 standard right now. So this is there are the standard which all the countries should apply to have a very good international practice to also to compare the accounting. So right now in Colombia, I'm not sure if you have heard the National Accounting Office, or the General Accounting Office of Colombia, la Contaduría General de la Nación. So they have implemented also the international public sector accounting standards indirectly. So right now we have 4 frameworks applying in the public sector in Colombia, thanks to the Contaduría General de la Nación. So for the reason is necessary also to check also these standards, and this process of updating this standard are continuous. So it's important to know that. So this is a little bit the context about I would like about the public sector accounting and in government finance statistics. I would like to give you, and also maybe you are interested in more details. Also, you can also consult about these 4 frameworks of reference. So, what is the objective of the general the government finance statistics and the public sector accounting? So they have really a little bit different objectives. So the first, in the government finance statistics field, so we can find 3 objectives mainly. Is to analyze or to evaluate the results of the fiscal policy decision, because of course the authorities, they are doing decision in policy like economic policy or monetary policy and different stuff like that. So but the idea is to have to know how this policy affects or impact the economy in taking in consideration if they did or they made the correct decision. So the idea is to have to analyze or to evaluate the results of this decision they took. So also it's necessary to know what is the impact or the impact of the government in this economy is through this framework we have talked about before. So the idea is to know what is, for instance, the participation of the government in the GDP. This is one of the factors of the economy, one of the sector of the economy. So this is the idea also to know what is this impact in that economy, on this participation in the economy. And also we have to know the government finance statistics also aims to do comparison between different countries, or even in the country. So maybe departments or states, municipalities can do comparison each other. So the idea is to have information to do this comparison process. And for the general financial reports, this is public sector accounting. So the 3 objectives is to evaluate what is the financial performance of the government through the financial for the financial performance state. So also the financial position, the cash flow, because of course we have a statement of cash flow. We have also financial statement of performance and the financial statement of position, like the asset, liabilities, the net assets. Yes. So right now we can see how was the variation in this financial position and the variation in this cash flow. So also is necessary to know the general purpose financial reports are helping to accountability, like in Spanish is rendición de cuentas. So the idea is also to show the citizens, of course, the government is doing a good job in managing the public resources. So this is also very important. And of course, the financial statement, the general purpose of financial reports, are helping also to the authorities to make decisions. So in the decision-making purposes, is very important also to know. Why general purpose financial report and why not financial statements? Is because general purpose financial reports also comprise the financial statement, but more information, like for instance another report like the medium term fiscal framework. So there are more information in the general purpose financial reports, and for the reason when you see the IPSAS conceptual framework, you will see this term, this expression, not to financial statement, is more general purpose financial reports. So this is like the objectives of the two system or subsystem, because we will speak later also about the public financial management. This is a system, but also some authors they said government finance and statistics is a subsystem and accounting is another subsystem. But also we in this moment we can speak is there are two different systems, and of course they have different objectives. So this is the two systems, and now I would like to introduce a little bit the concept of entity, because it's very important to know the difference between the entity in the government financial statistic and the entity in the public sector accounting. So for GFSM 2014, sorry, this is 2014. I put here 2015. So for GFSM, they consider the entity, they call the entity as institutional unit. Indeed, the GFSM 2014 says that entity is an economic entity, and that economic entity is able to have for its own right its assets, its liabilities. So also the entity can do activities or can do transaction with other entities in itself. So it's like a concept like legalistic, a little bit legal concept, because also, of course, in the legal manner, so an entity who has the legal identity, so they can own it can own their own assets or incurring liabilities. So this is a little bit legal approach, but yes, I will talk later about the public reporting entity in IPSAS, and then, but now we can consider the entity like a little bit close to the legal approach of entity. So this is the institutional unit, but also in GFS and GFSM in 2014, they are also consider the institutional sectors, because they indeed the focus of the GFS, the focus are the consolidation or the compiling statistic of the sectors, and for the reason they consider that institutional sectors are the groups of this kind of institutional units, but we have to put attention here, because these institutional units need to be resident units. So if the entity is located in another country, even if the entity is from the government, so it's not considered. It is not considered in this approach. So for instance, if there is for instance, right now we know Ecopetrol, you know. So Ecopetrol has subsidiaries in Brazil, in Chile. I don't know which other country, but for instance, these subsidiaries, they are not considered in GFSM 2014 because they are not resident units. But of course, if you know in the IPSAS approach, because the subsidiary are part of the controlling entities, controlling entity. So this information, the information of the subsidiary or the control entities, need to be included in the consolidated financial statements. So for the reason is a little bit different. The approach of the GFSM 2014, because the idea, but because we can come here a little bit, we would like to know what is the impact of the government in the economy. Yes, and for this reason, the idea is to know the economy we are talking about is the Colombian economy. Of course, the other resident, the other units, institutional units, are located in other countries, in other economies. So for the reason, the institutional sectors are only involved just the resident units. So for the reason, it's necessary to know. So we need to do some adjustment when we are doing the compilation of the government financial statistic, because sometimes the consolidated financial statement are including other entities abroad. So this is necessary to know. And the GFSM 2014 considers 5 institutional sectors in the economy: non-financial corporation, financial corporation, general government, household, no-profit institutions serving households. So for the reason it's necessary to know, but this GFSM is also harmonized with the system of national accounts 2008. Because also the 5 institutional sector also are defined in this system of national accounts, also in the European system of account. Also, there are the same sectors. So, in contrast, IPSAS. So in contrast, IPSAS is focused in the reporting entity, in the public reporting entity. And here in the public reporting entity, the IPSAS are talking about also not necessarily is economic entities with legal identity. Maybe it could be a program, or maybe it could be identifiable area of activities. Yes, but it's not necessary to have a very legal entity. So the idea is to give information to the users. So for the reason, for instance, in Colombia, there are fiduciary engagement. So these fiduciary entities, so also they are producing financial statements. But if we, in contrast, analyzing this fiduciary business in the institutional unit, maybe this fiduciary business will not be part of the institutional units. For the reason is a little bit different. Also, the IPSAS is more user-centric, are using a user-centric approach, and for the reason is more you can decide what is the reporting entity. So like the program, or like one area. For instance, in the Treasury in Colombia, before like the Treasury Minister, they have also the Treasury, but also the entity, the office that manage the debt. So the debt also in the government prepare also a different financial statement separately with the treasury. So, but right now they are preparing the financial statements together. But anyway, it is possible to define the which will be the public reporting entity. And the other thing I would like to put in consideration here is that GFSM 2014 is considering just general government. So this is very important to know, just general government. And IPSAS is also considering general government, but also are considered other public sector organization. So that means also if Ecopetrol is an enterprise, of course, Ecopetrol is an enterprise, but however, it's not government, because government is like the ministries, maybe departments, and other entities, which the Congress is the general government, but no, Ecopetrol is not taking policies in the economy. It's just they are doing its business, but no doing Ecopetrol is not playing a role of the policy making. So in this, for the reason, the general government is just the focus in the GFSM. Meanwhile, IPSAS is taking are considering the other public sector organization. However, you know, Ecopetrol, for instance, they are applying IFRS. Ecopetrol is not applying the IPSAS because, of course, you know, the law was issued by the Congress, so the idea is to have the same framework of the private and the public sector for the biggest enterprises. So for the reason is necessary to understand. But of course, right now in Ibagué or in Tolima, there are many enterprises, and these enterprises are applying a framework for the public sector accounting, very specific for this kind of enterprises, like public services, like water or so different stuff. But they are applying, of course, the frameworks that were released by the General Accounting Office of Colombia, Contaduría General de la Nación, and also the General Accounting Office of Colombia took some specific regulation of IFRS and also took some regulation of IPSAS, and then did a little a mix between both frameworks. So because the general financial statistic is just considering the general government, so we have to define what is general government sector includes. So here we have the public sector. Okay, so the public sector also include the general government, but also include some corporation in the which are producing goods or also providing services in the market prices. So, and we have to know also the public corporation is divided in financial and non-financial. And the general government, we can divide this general government sector in the central government. The central government is like in Colombia, we know like national government. So right now, like the Congress, like the president, so the ministers. So this will be the central government, is national government indeed. So, and the state government, general government, in Colombia we have the departamentos, so the state, the gobernaciones, and the local municipalities, los municipios, yes, and some social security funds. So we have here this kind of entities, but however, the general government in GFSM 2014 are including the non-market producing public corporation. Normally, for instance, some hospitals, maybe they are not participating in a market. Maybe the hospitals were created just to provide services of health, but maybe they are not providing service in the market with a market value. So for the reason, these kind of companies should be included in the general government. But however, in Colombia, we did a little bit different because also the law is binding, so it's mandatory that the companies in the same sector should apply the same framework. For instance, in Colombia, for instance, the hospital are applying are classified as enterprises, are not like in the general government for the just for the accounting purposes. For instance, in the General Accounting Office in Colombia, when they issued the framework for accounting for the hospital, those hospitals are included as enterprises, and they need to apply the framework for enterprises. So for the reason, it's necessary to know that in the GFSM 2014 is completely different. So in that case, the hospital should be included here in the general government, or maybe also not-profit organization. Maybe there are some enterprises that are not producing in the market values and market values. So the idea is to know. So for the reason, this public sector organization should be included there. So there is a criteria to know how you can classify the entities. So if the market revenues are less than 50% of the production cost, so those entities should be classified in the general government. So for the reason, it's necessary to have these rules, and all enterprises that have market revenues more than 50% of the production cost should classify in the market producing public corporations. So for the reason, it's necessary to know. But however, you have to know also this classification could change maybe in the next few years. So it's possible entity is providing services in the non-market fields, but also the next year could be producing this revenue in the market sense. So this is it's possible to change the structure. So this is one of the challenges we will talk later. So, and the focus of consolidation. Yeah.
Sorry, one minute. Vamos a hacer una pequeña pausa para poder hablarles con ellos y como hacerles un pequeño resumen, ¿vale?
Okay.
Perfect.
Yeah.
This
so I will be here.
Continue, and you are here to stand you better, ¿vale?
Okay, perfect.
Okay,
so also I can stay here. Maybe we can speak in Spanish also. Podemos hablar en español un ratico, esta pausa, por si de pronto alguien quiere hacer preguntas también.
Okay.
Listo, pues buenos días a todos. Un saludo, mi nombre es Ana Rose Cual Sánchez, soy la asistente en el programa de inglés acá en la UCC, pero soy de Estados Unidos, así que inglés es mi primer idioma. No soy de este campo, así que perdónenme, ustedes probablemente saben mucho más que yo acerca de este tema, pero voy a esforzarme para ayudarles a entender un poco y repasar. Entonces, primero, ¿ustedes entienden la palabra framework? Dame como una sí, una no. Framework. Ok. ese es un término que usó nuestro compañero y un framework. Siento que es más o menos como un concepto, un marco conceptual.
Bueno, es como, por ejemplo, ustedes cuando vemos las NIF y las IFRS, normal, él está manejando también, o hablando también de ese marco conceptual que hay a propósito de las IPSAS, ¿no? Que son las normas aplicadas al sector público. Entonces, siempre les va a referir al marco conceptual, al framework, porque es la base sobre la cual se sustenta la contabilidad, pues como todos lo sabemos.
Listo, sí, thank you, gracias. Él mencionó algunas metas de estos frameworks. Una de las metas es la transparencia y también que sean útil al sector público y esa información. Entonces, él mencionó, yo creo, que 4 diferentes frameworks. No sé si alguien recuerda uno.
Claro, ¿cómo que no?
Uno era National Accounts. Nos va a ayudar, muchas gracias. Las cuentas nacionales. Dio el ejemplo, por ejemplo, de las Naciones Unidas, the European Commission, World Bank Group, etc. Y aquí vemos los frameworks que dio.
Bueno, aquí hay una cosa importante y es que Durlandi nos hacía como un llamado de atención, por así decirlo, que las estadísticas de las finanzas públicas, y perdona ahí si me equivoco, pues son como una, no imposición, pero sí es como una estrategia del Fondo Monetario Internacional. ¿Sí, Durlandi? ¿Vamos más o menos bien?
Bueno, es que, bueno, lo hacen ver como si no fuese imposición, pero muchos préstamos, por ejemplo, están condicionados a que tengan muy buenas estadísticas de sus finanzas públicas. Por ejemplo, si el país de pronto no tiene una transparencia en el proceso de preparación de estadísticas de las finanzas públicas, muy seguramente la tasa de interés a la que le presta el Fondo Monetario Internacional será mucho más alta. Entonces, digamos que eso es, digamos que a pesar de que de pronto no es vinculante, al final termina siendo vinculante y los países como que adoptan esos marcos, estándares o estos guías como para tener mejor acceso a tasas un poco más bajas o mejores condiciones contractuales. Entonces, creo que es, digamos, como al final se termina haciendo un poco vinculante. Y lo otro es que, por ejemplo, como les mencionaba, en el caso del European System of Accounts, este sí es vinculante. O sea, para los que quieran pertenecer a la Unión Europea, ellos deben aplicar ese sistema porque es la forma para que la Unión Europea esté vigilando que estén aplicando, digamos, estén teniendo por lo menos la regla fiscal adecuada. O sea, que es como una especie de monitoreo, un seguimiento que le están haciendo porque ellos tienen unas reglas como muy estrictas de cómo se deben comportar por lo menos los gastos al interior de la Unión Europea. Entonces, por eso, por ejemplo, ese marco normativo, y que es normativo en sí porque es obligatorio, entonces sí es vinculante. Y para los países del este de Europa, con los países de los Balcanes o por lo menos Ucrania o bueno, los otros países del este de Europa, estos países que desean ser parte de la Unión Europea, pues lógicamente que van a, van a tener que aplicar ese sistema.
Ok.
Gracias. Ujú.
Ok, thank you. Entonces, el siguiente tema que nos habló era acerca de los objetivos del GFA y el PSA. No sé si nos puede compartir esa pantalla. Súper, muchas gracias. GFS, como pueden ver, significa Government Finance Statistics o estadísticas financieras del gobierno. Sí. Y aquí vemos sus objetivos, ahí son 3. Entonces sería analizar y evaluar las outcomes. ¿Qué sería eso?
Los resultados.
resultados, gracias, de las decisiones políticas en temas fiscales. Gracias. Como dije, este no es mi campo. El siguiente es determinar el impacto que tiene esas decisiones en la economía, y el siguiente es comparar esos resultados nacionales e internacionales. Mientras, por el otro lado, vemos el GPFR, General Purpose Financial Reports, que serían como...
Bueno, como el reporte financiero general que hacen,
Eso es,
la contabilidad
bueno,
que hacemos nosotros general de la contabilidad pública.
Bueno, es muy interesante porque acá digamos, se traduce como información financiera de propósito general. Pues no dice information, financial information, es como los IFRS. Entonces por eso, digamos, se traduce como información financiera de propósito general. Entonces, incluye tanto estados financieros como más información.
Ok.
Sí, yo creo que lo que más me llamó la atención a mí en la siguiente, que es la de color naranja, es que me parece más activa, o sea, que usan esa información para hacer la contabilidad y también para hacer decisiones, mientras en el otro se me hace que es más como recibir información, evaluar, comparar.
De acuerdo.
¿Algún detalle que quería agregar?
Bueno, yo quería agregar en la de más adelante, Turlandi. Esta. Me parece interesante porque él nos hace ahí la referencia de una diferencia entre las IPSAS y las estadísticas de las finanzas, y nos habla que, por ejemplo, esas IPSAS incluyen aspectos que tal vez se separan un poco en las estadísticas o en el reporte financiero basado como en las estadísticas financieras.
No, espérame, que es que iba a corregir como el 2014, porque como estaba el 2015, y eso lo hice hincapié también en la presentación. Ya.
Ok, entonces, bueno, que bajo las estadísticas o el sistema estadístico financiero, de las finanzas públicas, pues hay como dos aspectos que separan en la presentación de la información de las instituciones, y es, pues bueno, la parte institucional, que es un poco más legal, que él no lo explicaba, y la parte, pues, que se refleja ya más por sectores, mientras que las IPSAS o el reporte de información financiera pública, pues ya es un poco más general, un poco más completo, y pues está más diseñado como no solo a entidades del gobierno, sino también a otras entidades, y por eso nos hacía referencia al caso de Ecopetrol, que tienen una economía pues mixta, una participación mixta, donde el gobierno tiene representación y también se empiezan a reflejar ahí las... Y esa era una de mis dudas, pero no sé si te las hago ahorita o te la hago más adelante.
Maybe later, I don't know.
Ok. Bueno, porque, por ejemplo, dentro de las estadísticas, entidades como Ecopetrol, o que tienen economía mixta, ¿dónde se ven reflejadas?
Ok, entonces, bueno, como por ser una empresa que está participando en un mercado, o sea, y a precios de mercado, pues entonces no sería contemplado como General Government. Entonces no estaría en gobierno general, sino estaría como corporaciones. Entonces estaría más en el sector de corporaciones aquí, Market Producing Public Corporation. Entonces, digamos que acá lo interesante es que IPSAS se podría aplicar a Ecopetrol. Entonces, por eso es muy abierta a IPSAS, Government on Other Public Sector. En Colombia se tomó la decisión de no, por ejemplo, entidades públicas que cotizan en el mercado de valores y que captan y administran ahorro del público, como Ecopetrol o, por ejemplo, Banco Agrario, no aplicaran el marco normativo que la Contaduría General de la Nación preparó con base en IPSAS, sino que más bien aplicaron las IFRS full, o sea, las NIF plenas. Pero las IPSAS, digamos que incluyen todos los aspectos, o sea, divinamente Colombia hubiese podido decir Ecopetrol aplique IPSAS, y realmente como no hay mucha diferencia entre las IPSAS y las IFRS, o sea, Ecopetrol de hecho le hubiese ido bien, digamos, aplicando IPSAS. El tema es que también El problema es que como Ecopetrol en su momento, bueno, no sé si en este momento también tiene algunos instrumentos financieros cotizando en la bolsa de Nueva York. No sé si en este momento todavía lo tienen o en su momento
Sí,
lo tenía.
sí, sí,
Entonces,
lo tiene.
el tema es que el problema ya es que para estar allá en la bolsa de valores de Nueva York hay un requerimiento legal de allí de Estados Unidos que deben o aplicar IFRS, o sea, las NIF, o el US GAAP, o sea, los principios de contabilidad generalmente aceptados de Estados Unidos. O sea, pues claro, o sea, es más fácil para Ecopetrol estar aplicando IFRS, las NIF, que no las IPSAS, porque no son aceptadas en Estados Unidos. De hecho, Estados Unidos no aplica IPSAS, o sea.
Oh, eso no sabía. Vale. Ok, we can continue, no problem.
Okay. So here, so we were here, yes, but should
Yes,
we continue? Okay,
yes.
perfect. So the focus of consolidation or compiling, I would like to differentiate the two processes because also consolidation, of course, sometimes some people use the same terminology, consolidation, for the statistical purposes or for the accounting purposes. But however, it's better to separate, to don't be confused, because consolidation is more consolidation of financial statements and compiling is más compiling statistics. So, but however, it's necessary to know. So the perspective or the approach of the GFSM is more the general government. So I'm gonna put the laser point again. Here, this is the GFS perspective for consolidation. Is general government that includes central government, the national general government units, like for instance, DIAN, for instance, the ministries, the Congress, the Contraloría. So there are different units of government involved in this central government, but also the state subnational general government units. So here we have the gobernaciones, the departments, and also the local municipalities, general government unit, and social security funds. So social security funds, like for instance, Colpensiones. So there are resources, public resources, like in Colombia, Colpensiones. So it should be here in the general government. And here is necessary to understand the focus could be in the local, just in the local perspective. A municipality could have the impact of the participation of the municipality in the economy. For instance, it was so interesting. I think 2 months ago, I went to the website of the DANE, and in the DANE, at least I didn't check in the municipality level, but however, I check in the state and the subnational general government level in the states, that departamentos, and I check, for instance, the participation of each department in the GDP of Colombia. It was so interesting because in other countries it's not possible to find that information. So it looks the DANE is doing some efforts to have this information available to all of us. So it's good to know. You can check, for instance, I'm from Casanare, so from the department of Casanare. So I was checking what is the participation of Casanare in the GDP and the PIB. So it was nice to know. So the information exists. So it's good. And for instance, here we can see the GFS is not including the market producing public corporation. But however, if we see the approach of IPSAS, of the accounting, or maybe also the IFRS, because also they take in consideration the economic entity concept. That this economic entity concept includes the control entities and the controlling entity. So the control entity, like in the national level, controlling controlled entity, Ecopetrol, of course. If you see, maybe you can see the website of the General Accounting Office of Colombia, Contaduría General de la Nación. You can find also the financial statement of Colombia in the national level. So when we see the national accounting, the national financial statement, we can see that includes all the enterprises controlled by the national government. So for the reason, the approach of the consolidation is a little bit different than the approach of the general government that GFSN 2014 is setting. So for the reason, it's necessary to know also, of course, in the subnational level, like departments, state, or municipalities, also they could do this consolidated financial statement, also including their public corporation. But however, it's necessary to know, for instance, in Colombia, the national standards applying for the government units or government entities in all levels, those standards don't require preparing the consolidated financial statements, because when the General Accounting Office took the decision, they said so the National Accounting Office is doing this consolidation, but just for the national level, because it's in the Constitution of Colombia. It says just the National Accounting Office should do this national consolidated financial statement, but also also it's possible to have the consolidated financial statement in all the levels of government. For instance, Bogotá also has different public corporations, like Metro de Bogotá, for instance. So Bogotá, when Bogotá wants to have a loan with World Bank, for instance, or sometimes with IDB, El BID, in Inter-American Development Bank, sometimes those organizations require the consolidated financial statements of Bogotá, or is the same in Medellín, or like EPM, Empresas Públicas de Medellín. Yes, so for the reason it's possible, it's not mandatory to do this consolidation, but it's possible to do that. So if one entity in one level of government want to do, so they can choose. But for instance, in the enterprises or in the public corporation, they are required. For instance, if there is, for instance, EPM, which applies IFRS, they need to do this consolidated financial statements, because also IFRS are mandatory to do that. So for the reason is a little bit different also in the government perspective and in the public corporation perspective. So why is so important the integration between PSA and GFS? It's because it is part of the public financial management activities, because as I mentioned before, so public financial management sometimes are defined as a system which includes budgeting, accounting, GFSM. Also is not here. Yes, it's here. The audit. is very important. The audit of the financial statements. So the like 4 subsystems in this public financial management activity, and it's necessary to know also this cycle or this cycle of activities are separated of the policy cycle, or maybe for any political rational activities. So for the reason, for instance, here the public legislative scrutiny of the budget, maybe they are doing formulation of the plans, like the plan de desarrollo, for instance. They are doing also financial planning, and then they prepare the budget, the preparation of the budget, and also the Congress give the authorization of this budget, and then each entity execute that budget. So in this part, after the execution of the budget, so the PFM starts, so the public financial management cycle starts. So like the recognition of the economic facts of in the accounting, it's necessary to know what is the stages of the process in accounting, initial recognition, measurement, subsequently measurement, also preparing the financial reporting on the financial statements. And then, so the financial statements are the input for government finance statistics. And then, of course, it will be an input again to the policy cycle starts again, because the public legislative scrutiny will start again with all the evaluating of the performance of the fiscal accounts of the government. So for the reason, it's very important to know, and it's very important to have this integration between the public sector accounting and the government finance statistics. But however, we have to know, so there are many activities to have this integration. We have to first we have to plan first. For the reason, the initial setup, we have to maintain also this plan, how to prepare this integrating process, and also we have also to execute the process, statistical data compiling, and then we have, of course, the outputs. So as the first step, we have to identify what the entities are involved in the general government sector. So we have to classify the entities. So and as we mentioned before, so the main criteria is to know if the entity is a market producer. So if the entity is a market producer, it will be in public corporation. If not, it will be government unit, and it should be classified in the general government sector. So the other step they have to do is to have charter of accounts that it will be harmonized also with the statistical reference framework. For instance, in this moment in Colombia, it's very interesting, and it also is nice to tell all of you that in this moment, the General Accounting Office of Colombia, la Contaduría General de la Nación, is doing an effort to have this harmonization between the chart of accounts, because right now we have a chart of accounts. Also, Colombia has a tradition to have a chart of accounts, el Catálogo General de Cuentas. So the idea is to have this chart of accounts harmonized with this concept of the structure of the statistical reference framework, to have the main keys to take the inputs of the accounting to produce the statistical finance of government. So for the reason, it's necessary to have this harmonization. In this moment in Colombia, we are doing the steps, but it's not finalized yet. So this is one. This is the step where we are in this moment like that. So, and also necessary to ensure that there is a match or a symmetry between the recognition data. So it's because I would like to mention here a very important thing is that in the government finance statistic, is necessary the register are symmetric. So it's necessary to have a symmetry in the recognition. It's not like, for instance, in the public sector accounting, for instance, they can employ its measurement, like, for instance, the effective interest rate, like for financial instruments. Also, if you will recognize a financial instrument, it's necessary to know what is the effective interest rate for the financial instrument measured at amortized cost, for instance. So, instrumentos financieros medidos al costo amortizado. It's necessary to know what is the effective interest rate, la tasa interna de retorno, la tasa de interés efectiva. So, and this calculation is made by each entity. But here in the government finance statistics, this calculation should be made for both entities, because the idea is to have symmetry, and then they can cancel all the transactions and all the facts together, because the idea is to compile all the information in all the economy. So for the reason, it's necessary to have the same information to cancel the different transaction, for instance, in the government units. So for the reason, it's necessary to have this match, and also necessary to have a bridging algorithm, because the idea is to take the information of the accounting and then produce these government finance statistics. So this is like the first stage we have to do, like the planning, initial setup, the preparatory work, and then when they have already everything, now it's possible to take this bridging of entity data. So the idea is to take all the information, all financial data, it come from the accounting, and then we have to review if there are the data are consistent. So we have to integrate, of course, all the data in the GFS model. So it's necessary also to have some adjustment. They have to process all the statistical on institutional unit and each level of the government, and then they have to do the consolidation of each entity in each sector, in each sector defined in the by the GFSM 2014. But the thing is, there are many adjustments to do, because for instance, it's necessary to know, and it's very important to know, that in GFSM 2014, all the transactions should be valued at market value. That is so different for the accounting, because the accounting, you can recognize an asset. For instance, if you recognize a property, plant, and equipment, you will recognize the property, plant, and equipment using the cost, because how much you pay to buy this property, plant, and equipment. So in the initial measurement, it will be a cost. Maybe in the subsequent measurement should be another basis, maybe cost model, or maybe you can use the fair value to have the revalued model. So this is this is a little bit different in statistics, because in statistics you need to recognize this property, plant and equipment and market value. But the problem is, of course, the entities have recognized already that asset at cost. So this is a little bit difficult to do this adjustment, because of course the data will go to the office which prepared that. In Colombia, that information is prepared by the General Accounting Office, Contaduría General de la Nación. So the Contaduría General de la Nación receives all the information, all financial statement of all entities, like public sector or general government sector, and then they need to do this adjustment. But because, of course, the civil servants who work in the General Accounting Office shouldn't know what was the market value of this property, plant and equipment. So maybe they didn't know. So the idea is to maybe do one estimation of the effect of the market value in this government finance statistics. And then, for instance, in the end, all the GDP, the Producto Interno Bruto, the gross domestic product, so it will be an estimation. It's not like it's exact amount. So it will be an estimation. It's not, and for that reason, it's very important to have a lot of the information of the entities, but with the quality required to prepare all these indicators. So in the end, if we compare different countries, what is the GDP of Chile, or GDP of Colombia, or GDP of Switzerland, maybe we don't know if it is correct calculated. So it's an estimation. For this reason, it's necessary to improve the quality of the information of the financial statement to prepare the financial government finance statistics. So the main challenge we have to know, maybe it could be exogenous changes that affects the government, the general government sector delineation we made before, because maybe a company could be in 1 year market producer, or maybe another year maybe not market producer, so it is necessary to change. But to the strategy to address this challenge is maybe to have a permanent committee to look for the new changes. Of course, it's necessary to develop the harmonized chart of account. Yeah.
So sorry to interrupt. I think we need to go start wrapping up, since a lot of the students have to go to class soon.
Okay.
So if you want to wrap up, and then we'll just kind of help summarize everything, and then thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. So this is like the main challenge we have. So they develop an integrated harmonized chart of account. We have also initial development on annual review of bridging table of keys, simultaneous recognition of corresponding flows, so stocks, rule-based statistical adjustment in the accounting information, of course, and we have to have a working group coordinated to implement the public sector accounting and GFSM reforms. So this is I wanted just to finish, and then.
Okay, Durlandi, thank you, really thank you for your information and for your interest and participation in this conference international. It is a new topic for us, and I hope all understand your conference, and really thanks again for your participation, and welcome to the Universidad Cooperativa de Colombia, Ibagué-Espinal campus. And okay, I hope see you again
Yes.
in this
No, really,
university.
really thank you for the invitation. I hope I gave some inputs for the class. Maybe I don't know, or maybe someone is interested in this topic. So really, it's very exciting to work in those topics. So I would like, maybe if you want to know more, of course I am open to receive any questions. So in the presentation is my mail, so you can write me, or through you, Jenny, maybe they can ask you something, and you can send the question to me.
Yeah, the presentation I really appreciate
Mhm.
because it is the really important. This topic is new, is actually no in the accounting public. Ok, una estudiante mía tiene una pregunta para ti.
Perfecto.
Ayer me la comentó, entonces ella te la va a hacer. Luisa. Muy voluntariamente ella. Para que él te pueda ver. Porque ahí no te ve. Pero es que no te ve ahí, qué culpa.
I can see you, Luisa.
Hola.
Hola.
La pregunta es, ¿qué beneficios tiene el Estado al integrar el sistema contable basado en el devengado con el presupuesto?
Okay. This is very important. In English and Spanish?
En español.
Okay. Bueno,
Perdón,
bueno.
gracias. En español.
Bueno, aunque bueno, primero el tema también de integración del presupuesto con la contabilidad, y que bueno, que sea un presupuesto en base de vengado, es otro tema incluso muy interesante para estudiar. Claro, porque acá solamente hablamos contabilidad y estadísticas, ¿no? Pero como les decía antes, en el sistema de la gestión de las finanzas públicas tenemos auditoría y tenemos también presupuesto. Y la pregunta que nos hacen es efectivamente interesante, porque tener el presupuesto con base de vengado permite a los países también ir como provisionando un poco los recursos para, digamos, para ejecutar para ejecutar incluso en algunos gastos que de pronto con el presupuesto en base caja no se pueden prever. Por ejemplo, quizás de pronto, si existen algunas demandas contra el Estado, quizás si tú tienes el presupuesto base de vengado, ya vas a saber con bastante precisión que probablemente el próximo año vas a tener que pagar, desembolsar, digamos, por esos litigios que están frente al Estado. Entonces, gracias al presupuesto en base de vengado, se pueden ya como destinar algunos recursos para estos litigios. En cambio, por si se tiene en base caja, pues normalmente pues esos pasivos, o sea, no se va a poder ver ni siquiera esa obligación que se va a tener, porque solamente se va a revisar cuando se vaya a cumplir. Entonces, creo que tiene sus beneficios, pero también incluso tiene sus contras, porque normalmente los congresistas o las personas que están aprobando el presupuesto, ellos entienden un poco más el tema de cash flow, de flujos de efectivo, más flujo de caja, más que accrual account de base de vengado. Entonces, por eso es importante tener quizás un paralelo, quizás tener como, quizás no abandonar totalmente el presupuesto con base caja, y tener quizás el paralelo, como por ejemplo el caso suizo. Es interesante porque ellos tienen dos presupuestos, el base caja y el base vengado. Y entonces los congresistas están aprobando los dos presupuestos. Incluso al principio los congresistas estaban interesados, todavía estaban interesados en el presupuesto base efectivo, base caja. Y ahora es interesante ver cómo los congresistas ahora están más interesados en ver, por ejemplo, cuál va a ser el presupuesto de la depreciación acumulada de las propiedades planta de equipo, que eso incluye, incluso es importante para el mantenimiento del capital. Ustedes han visto en sus materias de contabilidad que la depreciación de propiedades planta de equipos genera es una reserva al final para que luego la entidad pueda seguir manteniendo su capital, puedan en algún momento volver a adquirir o reemplazar esas propiedades planta de equipo que se están desgastando por el consumo normal del potencial del servicio o del beneficio económico. Entonces eh, creo que ambos sistemas, tanto presupuesto base de vengado como presupuesto base efectivo, se podrían tener y creo que, digamos que es bueno, digamos que mantener incluso los dos sistemas para la toma de decisiones también por parte del Congreso.
Ok, gracias, Durlandi. No sé si Ana Rose va a hacer algunas apreciaciones finales, ¿no?
No, yo creo que fue muy interesante. Muchísimas gracias y un gusto conocerlo.
Muchas
Ojalá
gracias.
algún día yo iré por allá a conocer a Suiza.
Claro que sí. Bueno, a todos los espero ir por acá. Bueno, ya saben. Bueno, Jenny, tienes que venir. Ok,
Gracias.
o
¿Usted ha
sea.
venido a Ibagué? Ah, sí, estudió acá, ¿cierto?
No, él estudió en la Nacional de Bogotá y pues como dijo en la presentación es de Casanare. Yo
Ok.
también soy llanera, entonces ahí compartimos alma llanera ambos.
Ah, ok. Pues Ibagué es...
Pero he estado en Ibagué dando, bueno, como Jenny mencionó en la presentación al inicio, yo trabajé en la Contaduría General de la Nación y tuve la oportunidad de conocer Ibagué, dando capacitaciones también a los servidores públicos digamos, a todos los servidores públicos en Ibagué. Entonces, tengo bastantes conocidos amigos allí de Ibagué. Entonces, en algún momento me gustaría volver a Ibagué y visitarles.
Súper, pues es una ciudad hermosa, me encanta vivir acá.
Súper.
Ok, pues muchísimas gracias a todos por participar. Espero que... Juanita, ¿tienes una pregunta? ¿No? No, pero ¿por qué no? Paula, ¿no? Bueno, nadie quiso más voluntariamente participar.
Bueno, de todas formas, yo espero bueno, que el tema haya sido de agrado de todos y que, bueno, veamos que no solamente la contabilidad es para las empresas privadas, sino que hay muchas cosas por hacer. O sea, de hecho, mira, hasta ahora en Colombia está iniciando todo el proceso de integración de contabilidad con estadística. Bueno, se ha venido trabajando desde hace mucho tiempo, pero por lo menos falta esta homologación del catálogo general de cuentas con estadística. Y eso puede durar, no sé, un proyecto de cuatrienal, o sea, puede durar 4 años este proceso. Incluso en este momento se está haciendo a nivel nacional, luego va a tener que ser a nivel territorial. O sea, campo de acción hay muchísimo en contabilidad. Ustedes pueden ser auditores, pueden ser controllers de control interno, bueno, en fin. Tienen muchos campos, o tributaristas. Normalmente los contadores en Colombia tienen preferencia por la tributaria, por los impuestos, por las leyes, pero pues hay muy pocos contadores del sector público, e incluso no solamente en Colombia, les digo acá en Suiza, por eso yo estoy acá, porque es que en Suiza no hay contadores especializados en sector público y ni siquiera en Europa, o sea, es muy difícil y por eso, digamos, fue una de las cosas, especializarse en estos temas que de pronto casi nadie los ve, te pueden abrir muchas puertas y también la invitación también para que aprendan una segunda lengua. Como les decía al principio, yo en 2019, bueno, perdonarán mi inglés porque de hecho mi inglés no es avanzado, o sea, no es, yo en 2019 no hablaba nada de inglés, no entendía nada de inglés, y realmente que pues lo importante es darse a entender. Yo no sé, Ross, tú me calificarás, o sea, al menos creo que me di a entender. Y realmente, por ejemplo, ustedes pueden ver ejemplos de muchas partes, personas que de pronto no conjugan bien los verbos, pero bueno, se hacen entender. Por ejemplo, el jefe de la Organización Mundial de la Salud, ustedes lo han escuchado hablar. Él no es que tenga la mejor pronunciación del inglés de la vida, o sea, es perder el miedo y de todas formas, con el tiempo se va mejorando, o sea, no necesariamente vamos a que tenemos que ya ser expertos hablando inglés, sino que somos humanos y todo es un proceso en el aprendizaje y digamos que la idea es perder el miedo y si ustedes tienen la oportunidad de encontrar un amigo extranjero, aprovechen a Ross, empiecen a hablar con Ross y no importa que se equivoquen, lo importante es intentarlo y corregir y mejorar.
Así es, muchas gracias. De hecho, hablando de eso, quiero aprovechar para invitarlos a todos. Yo proveo 2 clubes acá en este sede, este campus, los martes y los jueves por la mañana en la sala 3C. Son gratis, abiertos a todos niveles, si eres principiante o si eres avanzado. Yo, de hecho, acá saliendo en las carteleras hay como un afiche con mi cara y allá está la información, entonces pueden tomarle una foto. Pero les quiero comentar que ahorita a las 8 vamos a tener como una sesión especial allá en la sala 3C, de 8 a 9:30. Entonces, si desean venir, si quieren como practicar su inglés un poquito, aprender algo, están súper bienvenidos y no, es un ambiente muy relajado. Y divertido, entonces no se estresen porque, ay, pero no estoy preparado, tengo un mal acento, me da miedo, todos están bienvenidos.
Bueno, muchísimas gracias a todos los que se quedaron hasta el final y también al profe Juan Manuel porque él también hizo parte de toda la organización del evento. Muchas gracias, Durlandi, estamos en contacto.
Bueno,
See
muchas
you.
gracias. See you soon. Espero verte pronto de verdad, o sea, en vivo y en directo. Bueno, chao.